The mail-order bride finds her groom dead and is forced to marry his killer to survive. What would you do if your greatest hope became your worst nightmare in a single moment? If the man you traveled thousands of miles to marry lay dead and his killer held your fate in his hands? In the lawless Dakota Territory of 1887, where survival often meant impossible choices and justice was written by the powerful, one woman would discover that the line between villain and savior is sometimes drawn in blood. Before we discover how a mail-order bride trapped by murder found an unexpected path from terror to truth, take a moment to support this channel. If you believe that sometimes the darkest beginnings lead to the most surprising destinations, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell us in the comments about a time when something terrifying turned out differently than you expected. Now let's journey into the wild Dakota Territory, where nothing is what it seems and survival demands courage beyond measure. The stagecoach lurched to a stop in front of the trading post, and Catherine "Cat" Walsh stepped down into the dusty settlement of Redemption Crossing. At 26, she was older than most mail-order brides, but after 3 years of factory work in Boston following her parents' deaths, she'd saved enough for passage west and answered an advertisement from Samuel Cord. His letters had been kind, describing a ranch, a comfortable home, and a partnership built on mutual respect. He'd mentioned he was 43, a widower without children, and ready to build a new life with the right woman. Cat had been charmed by his honesty and the obvious loneliness between his words. "Miss Walsh?" A young man approached, maybe 20, with nervous eyes. "I'm Billy. I work for Mr. Cord. I'm supposed to take you to the ranch." "Is Mr. Cord well?" Cat asked, noting Billy's obvious discomfort. "Yes, ma'am. He's expecting you." Billy loaded her trunk onto the wagon with hands that shook slightly. The ride to the ranch took an hour through beautiful but harsh landscape. Cat noticed Billy kept glancing at her with something like pity, which made her increasingly uneasy. When they finally arrived at a substantial ranch house, her anxiety spiked. The place looked well-maintained, prosperous even, but something felt wrong. "Mr. Cord is in the main house," Billy said, his voice barely above a whisper. I'll get your trunk later." Cat walked to the front door, her heart pounding. She knocked, waited, then pushed it open when no one answered. "Mr. Cord, Samuel, it's Catherine Walsh. I've arrived from Boston." The house was beautifully furnished but eerily quiet. Cat moved through the parlor toward what appeared to be a study. The door was partially open. "Mr. Cord?" She pushed the door wider. Samuel Cord sat in a leather chair behind a massive desk, his head tilted back at an unnatural angle, his eyes open and unseeing. Blood stained his shirt front. He'd been dead for hours. Cat's scream brought Billy running, but he wasn't alone. A man appeared behind him, tall, perhaps 35, with dark hair and eyes like winter ice. He wore a gun belt with the casual ease of someone who knew how to use it, and his expression was completely unreadable. "Miss Walsh," the man said calmly, as if they were meeting at a church social rather than over a corpse. "I'm Cole Thornton. I own the ranch next to this one. I found Sam's body this morning." Cat backed away, her mind reeling. "You found him? What happened? Who did this?" "That's what the sheriff is trying to figure out." Cole's voice remained steady. "He was shot sometime last night. There was a dispute over water rights. Several men had reason to want Sam dead." "The sheriff?" Cat looked around. "Where is he?" "Went to round up the suspects. He'll be back." Cole studied her with those cold eyes. "In the meantime, we have a problem." "A problem?" Cat's voice rose. "A man is dead. I came here to marry him, and he's murdered, and you're talking about problems." "Yes, Miss Walsh, your problem." Cole moved into the room with predatory grace. "You're a woman alone in the Dakota Territory with no money, no family, and no prospects. Sam's ranch will be sold to pay his debts. His hands will scatter. Where exactly do you plan to go?" The brutal practicality of his words hit Cat like a physical blow. He was right. She'd spent everything getting here. She had maybe $5 to her name and knew no one within 1,000 miles. "I'll find work," she said, lifting her chin. "I can cook, clean, keep books. There are 3 women in this territory who aren't married or working in saloons," Cole interrupted. "All 3 are old widow women with families to support them. A young single woman. You'll last maybe a week before someone tries to claim you, one way or another. Then I'll go back east." "With what money?" Cole's tone was almost gentle, which somehow made it worse. "Stage fare is $50. Railroad ticket is $75. Do you have that?" Kat's silence was answer enough. Cole moved closer and Kat forced herself not to retreat. "I have a solution. You marry me. Today. The minister's in town for another few hours. You become my wife, you have protection, a home, security." "Marry you?" Kat stared at him in disbelief. "I don't know you. Samuel is dead barely a day and you want me to marry you?" "I don't want to marry anyone," Cole said bluntly. "But I need a wife. My ranch is larger than Sam's, and I can't manage it alone anymore. I was actually considering placing my own advertisement when I heard Sam had sent for you." He paused. "This is business, Miss Walsh. Protection and security for you. Help running my ranch for me. Nothing more unless you choose otherwise." "You're insane," Kat whispered. "I'm practical. And you have about 2 hours to decide before word spreads that Sam's dead and you're unprotected. Then you'll have every rough man in the territory trying to claim you." His eyes hardened. "Some of them won't bother asking first." As if to punctuate his words, 3 men rode up to the house. They were rough-looking, armed, and their eyes went straight to Kat with a hunger that made her skin crawl. "Heard Sam Cord got himself killed," the leader said, dismounting. "Heard he had a bride coming, that her?" "That's none of your business, Rake," Cole replied, his hand moving casually to his gun. "Everything in this territory is my business," Rake said. "Pretty thing like that can't be left alone. She'll need protection." "She has protection," Cole said coldly. "Mine. She's my wife as of an hour ago." Kat's breath caught, but she had enough survival instinct to keep quiet. Rake's eyes narrowed. "That's so. Mighty convenient, Cole. Sam dies and you get his bride?" "Sam was my friend. His dying wish was that I look after her." The lie rolled off Cole's tongue smoothly. "Now get off this property before I decide you had something to do with his murder." The threat was clear. Rake and his men backed off, but the look they gave Kat promised this wasn't over. After they left, Kat turned on Cole. "How dare you claim we're married? That was a lie. A lie that just kept you from being dragged off and brutalized," Cole replied. "And it won't stay a lie long if you have any sense. Rake Spencer controls most of the rough element around here. He's wanted this land for years. Now Sam's dead and his bride is unprotected. Rake will come back, Miss Walsh. Tonight, tomorrow, but he'll come back. Unless you're actually my wife, I can't protect you." "Why would you protect me at all?" Kat demanded. "You don't know me." "Because Sam was my friend, and I won't let his murder lead to you being victimized too." Cole's expression softened slightly. "And because I actually do need help with my ranch. I'm not lying about that." Kat looked at the body of the man she'd never met, the man she'd traveled so far to marry, looked at Cole Thornton with his cold eyes and practical cruelty, looked out the window at the vast, unforgiving territory that would swallow her whole if she tried to navigate it alone. "If I agree," she said slowly, "I want terms. Name them. Separate bedrooms. You don't touch me unless I say otherwise. I help run your household and ranch books, but I'm not a servant. And if circumstances change, if I can earn passage back east, you let me go." "Agreed. On one condition of my own, you give this a fair chance, 6 months. After that, if you still want to leave, I'll pay your passage myself." Kat studied his face, looking for deception. She saw only cold calculation and perhaps a hint of loneliness. "Why are you really doing this?" "Because I watched my mother work herself to death after my father passed, trying to hold on to our ranch alone. Because I've seen what happens to unprotected women in this territory. And because Sam asked me, the last time I saw him, to look after his bride if anything happened to him. He knew he was in danger, He knew Rake Spencer wanted his land and would kill to get it. He was right. Cole extended his hand. "Do we have a deal?" Kat looked at his hand for a long moment. Everything in her screamed that this was wrong, that marrying a stranger over another man's body was monstrous. But survival had its own logic, and Cole was right about her alternatives. 6 months, she said, taking his hand. Then we reevaluate. They were married 3 hours later in a hasty ceremony with Billy and the minister's wife as witnesses. The minister looked troubled but didn't ask questions. Kat wore her traveling dress and spoke her vows in a numb daze, still seeing Samuel Cord's dead eyes every time she closed her own. Cole's ranch was impressive. A large timber house with real glass windows, numerous outbuildings and hundreds of acres of prime land. He had 6 men working for him, all of whom looked at Kat with various degrees of curiosity and suspicion when Cole introduced her as his wife. "You'll have the main bedroom," Cole told her as he showed her the house. "I'll take the room off the study. There's a lock on your door if you want it." The house was well built but clearly lacked a woman's touch. Kat found herself already mentally cataloging what needed attention: curtains to sew, thorough cleaning, organization. That first night, Kat lay in the large bed in what was now supposedly her room and cried silently. She'd come west seeking a fresh start, maybe even love. Instead, she'd found murder and had been forced into a marriage with a man who looked at her with all the warmth of a business transaction. But when morning came, Kat dried her tears and faced reality. She'd survived her parents' deaths, 3 years in factories, and the journey west. She'd survive this too. Over the following days, Kat began to establish her place in Cole's household. She cooked, which the ranch hands appreciated since Cole's previous attempts at food had been barely edible. She cleaned and organized. She took over the ranch accounts and discovered she had a talent for bookkeeping. Cole largely left her alone, working from dawn to dusk, coming in exhausted and eating dinner in near silence before retreating to his room. They were like strangers sharing a house. But Kat noticed things. She noticed Cole checking the locks on the doors each night, noticed the way his hand went to his gun whenever riders approached, noticed the tension in his shoulders that never quite eased. 2 weeks after their marriage, she found him in the study poring over documents. "What are those?" she asked. Cole looked up, surprised. "Survey maps, water rights documentation. Trying to figure out who benefits most from Sam's death." "You don't think it was this Rake Spencer?" "Oh, it probably was. But I need proof." Cole rubbed his eyes. "Sam's murder is convenient for several people. Rake gets access to land he's wanted. Marcus Grant can reroute water. Even Samuel's own foreman, Carl, inherits a small portion of the ranch. You're investigating." Kat moved closer, studying the maps. "The sheriff's useless, probably paid off. If I want justice for Sam, I'll have to get it myself." Kat felt something shift in her perspective. "Samuel was important to you. He was one of the few honest men in this territory." Cole's voice was rough with emotion he quickly suppressed. "He didn't deserve to die." "Then let me help." Cole looked at her skeptically. "How?" "I can keep books. If there's a paper trail, I can find it. I can also go places and hear things you can't. Women talk to each other differently than they talk to men. That could be dangerous." "Being here is dangerous," Kat replied. "I'd rather be useful and in danger than useless and trapped." Something like respect flickered in Cole's eyes. "All right, start with these. Sam's personal papers. Look for anything that seems wrong. Unusual transactions, threats, anything." Kat spent the next 3 days going through Samuel Cord's papers. She found meticulous records, evidence of a careful man who documented everything. And she found something else. A series of letters from Marcus Grant offering to buy water rights. The offers escalated over months, becoming more insistent, then threatening. "Look at the dates," and Kat showed Cole. "The last letter is dated 2 days before Samuel died. Grant says, 'You'll regret refusing me.'" "That's not proof of murder," Cole said, but his eyes were sharp. "But it's a start. What else?" Samuel was keeping a separate ledger. "See these transactions? Money paid to RS. Every month, always exactly the same amount. R.S. Cole's face darkened. Rake Spencer. Sam was paying protection money. Or blackmail, Kat suggested. What if Sam knew something about Rake? Something worth killing to keep quiet. Cole looked at her with new appreciation. You're good at this. I worked in a factory that was stealing from its workers. I learned to spot corruption. Kat studied the ledgers. We need to find out what Rake was hiding. Over the following weeks, Kat and Cole became unlikely partners in investigation. Kat would visit town, shopping and socializing, her ears open for gossip. Cole would follow paper trails and ride the territory, asking careful questions. And slowly, Kat began to see a different side of Cole Thornton. He was scrupulously fair with his workers. He was generous with neighbors in need. He had a dry humor that occasionally broke through his stern exterior. And he was absolutely dedicated to finding Sam's killer. One evening, after a particularly productive day of investigation, they sat on the porch watching the sunset. "Why did you really marry me?" Kat asked. The truth this time. Cole was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "My wife died 3 years ago. Childbirth. The baby, too. I swore I'd never marry again, never risk that pain. But Sam, he asked me to look after you if something happened. And when I saw you standing there, terrified but trying to be brave, I couldn't walk away. You said you needed help with the ranch. I do. But that's not why I married you." Cole looked at her directly. "I married you because I was ashamed of Sam's murder, and because letting you be victimized would have been another crime I couldn't live with." "And now?" Kat asked softly. "Now I'm glad you stayed. You're brave, smart, and you haven't let fear make you weak." He paused. "You've made this house feel less empty." Kat felt warmth spread through her chest. "You've made me feel less alone." Their eyes met and something shifted between them. Not love, not yet, but the beginning of genuine connection. That tentative peace was shattered the next morning when Billy came riding hard to the house. "Cole, they arrested someone for Sam's murder." "Who?" "Carl, Sam's foreman. Sheriff says he found evidence. Carl's gun, matching the bullet that killed Sam." Cole and Kat exchanged glances. Something was wrong. "Carl didn't kill Sam," Cole said firmly. "He had no motive. He inherited almost nothing, and he'd been with Sam for 15 years. "It's a setup," Kat said. "Someone wants this closed." They rode to town together, Kat insisting on coming despite Cole's protests. At the jail, they found Carl in a cell, his face battered. "They beat him," Kat whispered, horrified. Sheriff Dawson was unmoved. He resisted arrest. "You have the wrong man," Cole said coldly. "I have the murder weapon with his name carved in the handle. That's enough for a hanging." Cole examined the gun. "This isn't Carl's pistol. He has a Navy Colt. This is an Army model." "Gun's a gun," Dawson said. "Jury won't care about details." As they left the jail, Kat grabbed Cole's arm. "The sheriff's lying. Someone paid him to frame Carl." "I know, but I can't prove it yet." "Then we have 3 days, that's when the trial is scheduled, to find real proof." They worked frantically. Kat went through every document again, looking for connections. Cole rode out to question witnesses, and slowly a picture emerged. Marcus Grant had been buying up properties throughout the territory, consolidating water rights. Sam's land was the last piece he needed to control the entire water supply for the region, but Sam wouldn't sell. Then Kat found the crucial document, a partnership agreement between Marcus Grant and Sheriff Dawson, dated 6 months ago. They were partners in a land speculation scheme. "If Grant controls the water, he controls who can ranch in this territory," Kat explained. "He'll buy everyone out cheaply or drive them off through drought. And the sheriff helps him by looking the other way when convenient," Cole finished. "But we still can't prove Grant killed Sam or framed Carl. We need a confession," Kat said, "or we need the real murder weapon. Grant won't confess, and if he's smart, he's destroyed the real gun." Kat thought hard. "What if we make him think we found it, set a trap?" Cole looked at her with growing respect. "You're devious. Tell me more." They spent the next day crafting an elaborate trap. Kat let slip in town that she'd found a gun hidden in Sam's house, one that didn't match the gun presented as evidence. She made sure the gossip reached Grant's ears through carefully selected channels. That night they waited in Sam's empty house. Kat was terrified but determined, clutching Cole's spare pistol with shaking hands. Cole was positioned where he could see anyone approaching. Near midnight, they heard horses. 2 men entered the house quietly, Marcus Grant and Rake Spencer together. "Where is it?" Grant hissed. "Should be in the study," Rake replied. "That interfering woman said she hid it there." They watched from the shadows as the 2 men searched frantically for a gun that didn't exist. "This was a trap," Grant said suddenly. "They're here." Cole stepped into view, gun drawn. "You're right, and you just confirmed your partners in Sam's murder. Why else would you both come looking for a murder weapon?" Rake went for his gun, but Cole was faster. "Don't. You can't prove anything," Grant snarled. "Actually, we can." Kat emerged from her hiding place, her gun surprisingly steady. "You just admitted you knew about the gun we invented. Only the real killer would care about a weapon we made up." Grant's face went white. "That doesn't prove. It proves you knew Sam was shot with a different gun than the one you planted on Carl," Cole finished. "Add that to the partnership agreement we found, the threatening letters, and your timeline of buying up land, and a jury might be interested. Even a corrupt one." The standoff ended when Billy arrived with 3 other ranchers, men Cole had told about Grant's scheme, men who'd realized they were next on his list. Faced with multiple witnesses and certain testimony, Grant broke. "It was supposed to be simple," he said bitterly. "Sam refused to sell. Rake said he'd handle it. 1 shot, Sam's dead. We blame it on Carl and I buy the land from the estate cheap. You killed my friend for land." Cole's voice was deadly quiet. "For water rights worth $500,000 over the next decade," Grant corrected. "For control of the entire territory." The trial was brief. With Grant's confession and the partnership documents, both he and Rake were convicted. Sheriff Dawson fled but was caught 2 counties over. Carl was released with apologies and compensation. But for Kat and Cole, the resolution of Sam's murder left them facing the reality of their own relationship. One evening, about a month after the trial, Kat found Cole on the porch. "I've been thinking about our agreement," she said. Cole's face became carefully neutral. "The 6 months is almost up. If you want to leave, I'll arrange it." "That's not what I'm thinking about." Kat sat beside him. "I'm thinking that somewhere in the last few months this stopped being a business arrangement, at least for me." Cole turned to her, hope and fear warring in his expression. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that I came here to marry a man I didn't know, seeking safety and a fresh start. Instead, I married a different man I didn't know, and I found something I wasn't looking for." Kat took his hand. "I found a partner, someone who respects me, works beside me, trusts my judgment, someone who makes me feel brave instead of afraid. Kat, I forced you into this marriage. You gave me a choice when I had none. You protected me. You valued me." Kat squeezed his hand. "And I've seen who you really are. Not the cold, practical man from that first day, but someone who loved his friend enough to risk everything for justice. Someone who mourns his wife and child but hasn't let grief make him cruel. Someone who's been lonely but not broken." "I don't deserve you," Cole said roughly. "We deserve each other," Kat corrected. "2 people who had to start over, who've been through loss, who understand that sometimes the right choice is the hard one." Cole pulled her close, and this time when they kissed, it wasn't obligation or convenience, but genuine feeling built on respect and partnership, and the slow burn of affection earned through shared struggle. They remarried a year later, a real ceremony this time, with friends and family, with joy instead of desperation. Kat wore a beautiful dress, and Cole smiled more in that one day than he had in 3 years. Sam Cord's ranch wasn't sold. Cole and Kat bought it with money from Grant's restitution, preserving it as a monument to an honest man murdered for doing right. They ran it alongside Cole's spread, building an empire based not on theft, but on hard work and integrity. And sometimes on quiet evenings, Kat would think about that terrifying day when she'd arrived in Redemption Crossing to find her groom dead and her future in the hands of a stranger. She'd been forced into marriage by circumstances that should have destroyed her. Instead, she'd found purpose, partnership, and eventually love. She'd helped catch a killer. She'd built a life from ashes and terror. She'd discovered that sometimes the darkest moments lead to unexpected light. "What are you thinking about?" Cole would ask, seeing her lost in thought. "About how I came here to marry one man and ended up marrying his friend. About how the worst day of my life led to the best thing that ever happened to me." "Do you regret it? Any of it?" "I regret Sam's death," Kat would say honestly. "I regret the violence and fear. But I don't regret you. I don't regret us. Because what we built from those terrible circumstances is real and true and ours." And Cole would hold her close, this woman who'd faced down killers and carved out space for herself in a hard land. And he'd marvel at how survival had transformed into something much more precious. A love built not on romance or convenience, but on mutual respect, shared danger, and the recognition of strength in each other. Years later, when people would ask Kat Walsh Thornton about her mail-order bride story, she'd tell them the truth. She'd come west to marry a man she'd never met and found him dead. She'd married his best friend to survive, and in surviving, in fighting for justice, in building a partnership from necessity, she'd found something far more valuable than the safe life she'd been seeking. She'd found a love forged in fire, tested by violence and proven by choice. Because after that first desperate marriage, they'd chosen each other again and again. Chosen to trust, to respect, to build together. Chosen love over fear, partnership over loneliness, hope over the darkness that had brought them together. If this story of survival transforming into love and terrible circumstances leading to unexpected joy touched your heart, please show your support by liking this video and subscribing to our channel. Tell us in the comments about a time when something frightening led to something wonderful. Check out our playlist for more stories of resilience, unexpected love, and justice in the Old West. Your support helps us share these powerful tales of people who refuse to let fear win. Thank you for watching. And remember, sometimes our darkest moments are really doorways to our greatest strengths. Sometimes survival is the first step toward love. And sometimes the person who seems like your captor is actually your salvation.